The Nintendo Switch released on March 3rd, 2017. I'm a huge Nintendo fan, but by the time the Switch had come out, I had really not given it a chance, like many other people. During this latest console arms race, I was siding with Team Xbox, thinking that that was going to be the superior console. Between the heavy-duty graphics hardware and the creators behind this thing projecting a seamless transition between video gaming and TV, I thought this was for sure going to be the console to choose. And when I say that I'm a huge Nintendo fan, it's not hyperbolic at all. Some of my very first memories as a child was playing The Legends of Zelda or Kung Fu, Super Mario Bros., Duck Hunt, these sort of games. And when I was 7, I got the Nintendo 64 for Christmas. And that thing just delved me even deeper into this addiction that I had at such a young age. It was such an improvement over the NES. In fact, the games kept improving as it kept going on. Everyone knows the game GoldenEye, but a true Nintendo fan knows that the game Perfect Dark is the exact same thing as GoldenEye, but blows it out of the water. At the end of the summer of 2002, I had saved up enough money to purchase the GameCube. The GameCube had a really bad rap, and I think it was kind of unjust. I think people who were criticizing it had never actually played some of the exclusive games that Nintendo was coming out with at that point. Games like Tales of Symphonia, Eternal Darkness, Super Smash Bros. Melee. These exclusives the GameCube was offering could easily stand their footing against Xbox's exclusives like Halo, Halo 2, Fable, or PlayStation's exclusives like Twisted Metal Black or The Bouncer. I would rate all these systems the same though. The GameCube I got first, but I spent the later teen years trying to get all the rest of the consoles as well. The next generation of consoles after this is where things kinda slip. I expected the next generation of consoles to be the next step up, to have the next step of gaming mechanics. Some of the gaming mechanics in the GameCube and Xbox games were far beyond the mechanics of original PlayStation or the Nintendo 64. The Wii was actually pretty fun, but it wasn't quite the addictive experience that I was looking for. It was more of like a party console, and the PlayStation 3 never really crossed my radar because I disliked the controllers very much. The Xbox 360 was my favorite out of that generation. It was between the controller and the multiplayer games, I was kind of sucked into that console. I was never really wowed like I was from the previous generation, but the games were relatively fun. But this was the beginning of my gaming hiatus. Games being only slightly better than they were 5 years or 10 years previously was not good enough for me. I was always playing these new games, yet having fun, but always wishing that there was more to it. I had my eyes on the Xbox One. What kept me from buying it originally was that ridiculous $500 price tag, as well as a lot of its games that were being released on it were also being released on its previous console, which gave me some suspicions about this console. And the Wii U is a complete waste of money for me. It just became a glorified Netflix tablet. The PlayStation 4 looked equally as appealing to me as the PlayStation 3, as in, not at all. I finally was able to buy the Xbox One after they lowered the price to $400. And my immediate reaction to it was not good. Absolutely, the graphics were improving from the Xbox to the Xbox 360 to the Xbox One. But the gameplay was being taken from. I was noticing a lot of the games that I was playing didn't have any single player modes. Games like Titanfall or Star Wars Battlefront. On top of this, some of these full price games had microtransactions within it. The one game on the Xbox that held my attention for more than a few hours was Fallout 4. Over time, my Xbox One had eventually developed and turned into just another Netflix machine. As time had continued, I had eventually noticed that my girlfriend had purchased a copy of the new game Doom that came out in 2016. And when I say new, I mean new to me. We had bought it in 2017. I had pondered on it and wondered if it was just as trash as Doom 3. And I asked her and she said it was pretty good. I was hesitant at first, but I thought to myself, okay noob, let's see what you got. What is fun to you? So I started playing it myself. And it turns out that game was awesome. I loved it. Which to me is kind of strange because when I look into new games, I want something that does more, goes further into game development and how things can be done. But this was just a straight, simple, linear shooter game, and I was deeply into it. So I went and bought another game that was getting really high reviews, thinking that maybe the gaming had turned around at some point during my hiatus. The game was Destiny, and I was proven wrong. I really disliked Destiny a lot. Destiny was like Phantasy Star Online, but with better combat, and somehow managed to be worse. So I went back into my hiatus, playing PC games like Civilization or StarCraft. Just enjoying myself on the games I knew were good. But as the holidays came around, kinda shocked me to hear that my girlfriend had wanted the new Nintendo Switch for Christmas. It was odd to me, and I figured she was right about Doom, but even a broken clock can be right twice a day. So I decided I was gonna get her this little crappy looking Game Boy thing. After about a month of this thing being in our house, it was decided then I wanted one. In fact, it became conflicted between us because it kept stealing her Switch. The only downfall this thing has is that the resolution and frame rate on this thing is not as good as the other consoles that it competes with. But on the other hand, there is so much that's great about this thing. This thing has revitalized my gaming life. The other consoles seem to reinforce the idea of one person, one console. So if you wanted to play multiplayer, you would have to have a group of friends who had the same console and the same game, and then a connection of internet to play with each other. Whereas the Nintendo Switch seemed to incentivize a lot of split screen. In fact, the console comes complete with 2 controllers on it. Not only is there split screen, but you can wirelessly LAN between switches just by the signal that they cast on each other. This is some groundbreaking stuff. I remember being a teenager and landing up Xboxes and having a dramatic amount of fun playing games like Halo or Splinter Cell. But this takes all the LAN connection setup away. You don't need to do any of it since it's all wireless. And on top of that, you don't even need to set up any TVs or consoles, because this thing can be played in portable mode. This is what I imagined video games would be like in the future when I was a child. Switching from the console TV mode to the portable mode is really actually seamless, despite companies like Microsoft saying that their system was going to seamlessly go between TV and video games. It really was not seamless at all. This is very seamless. When you unplug the Switch from the console, it'll appear on the screen exactly where you're at, what you're doing in the game. Put it back into the console, again, the TV is going to show up exactly what you're doing at the point of the game that you're at. And it's within a second. One of the criticisms of the Switch early on that others had, including myself, is that the Switch wasn't going to have very many games, and the games it was going to have were going to suck. The exact opposite is actually true. The Switch seems to have the most games compared to its competitors, as well as the games seem to be much better. I really haven't been this much into video games since I was about 11 years old, going back and forth between Videomaniacs and Blockbuster to check out every single game I could. And all the games that I've been playing so far on the Switch, none of the ones that are full price have had any microtransactions, and this is amazing. The way that Nintendo has actually handled its transactions after purchasing the game, I actually think is morally okay. They sell these little tiny figures called amiibos, and I'm sure everyone's heard about these, but at least when you're buying amiibo, you're buying an actual product, and it's not something that a young child can just go out and destroy their parents' credit card with. And another huge thing that Nintendo has done since the release of the Switch is they completely changed their policy towards, people talking about their products and showing their products online, and also towards independent developers. This is not just good business to consumer practices. In fact, this is probably what sucked me into this addiction. Word of mouth is probably the best advertisement system that Nintendo can have, because Nintendo commercials are often really bad, and they always have been. Nintendo, of course, is a really, really large business, and its main focus is to make money. But the difference between the Nintendo Switch and the consoles it's competing against is that the Nintendo Switch doesn't just seem like a cash grab. It actually seems like people who like to play video games are making and designing this thing. The last 2 generations of consoles, besides the Switch, were so bad that when I had gotten a Switch and saw that it had LAN capabilities, I had completely forgotten about local area connections. Realized at this point that although my Xbox One, when I played it, I have 2 controllers, I never used 2 controllers because split screen on that thing is so rare. So why is the Switch winning the console war? It's not to say that there's no fun games on the Xbox One or the PS4, But whereas those systems don't seem to be very different from their predecessors, the Switch innovated, became something new, and is perhaps the best console of all time.